y'all are.
All right.
Is that cool? Let me just first say, huge thank you to Captain Brown and Officer Senyak for being here. And this is a busy schedule, so thank you all for being here too. September's Realtor Safety Month, and I'm sure you all remember, been a number of years now, but there was a horrific event that occurred in downtown Asheville to a Realtor while she was on the job. So, don't want to minimize the importance of knowing some safety tips when out there in the field. So, very thankful to you guys for being here. And so, take it away.
All right. Thanks, Matt. It's good to be with you all, especially when there's good pizza involved. And it's good that you highlight this month and what it represents, particularly for realtor safety. I'm going to share just a few crime stats with you, just kind of give you an overview of what the crime picture looks like in Asheville. And Isaiah's going to go in depth with you on the some of the safety practices for you guys. The good news is that we have seen a downward trend in violent crime this year, and it's been a downward trend for a couple of years, but we're seeing that trend continue, which is good. We want to continue to see that as we move through the end of the year and into 2026. Property crime, those numbers are somewhat steady. It is a slight decline year over year, but where we are seeing a little bit of an uptick in property crime is really with retail establishments. That in part is due to our collaboration with them, where we're asking them to report. Whenever we went through our reduction in force 2020, 2021, we really had the inability to respond to some of the lower level property crimes. And as a result, retailers pulled back and they started to adjust how they were doing business. Well, as we are restaffing and our numbers are coming back to more normal levels, we're asking the retailers to report as they would have. So as a result, their numbers are starting to inch up, and that's changing our property crime data a little bit. And we expect that. We expected it to happen. We expect it to continue to show probably an upward trajectory on the property crime side. Residential burglaries actually have been elevated, but those burglaries have been concentrated to the downtown area. In 9 of the burglaries, I think we had around 33, 9 of those were situated in public housing. So when you start really looking at the granular data, you can see exactly where things are happening and where it's kind of localized to. But the big picture is that we feel good about the direction we're going, even though violent crime has been going, trending downward. Last year, we had a record number of homicides, 13 in the city. 9 of 13 were firearms related. So we continue to have a very, very high closure rate on those crimes where we're closing most of those by arrest, which is what, we want to see that. So homicides going unsolved and left open and everything. So yeah, violent crime or property crimes. One thing I wanted to mention was our emphasis on quality of life issues that, around the city of Asheville. We have heard from a lot of our business community and even our residential community complaints about nuisance crimes, complaints about issues that are affecting the quality of life in their neighborhoods, where they work, live, play, send their kids to school, where people visit. And it just reached a point where, something has had to be done. And APD has taken a look at that, where those issues are concentrated at. And there's probably a half a dozen pockets within the city of Asheville that we're seeing on a heat map, it just kind of jumping off the map at us. So we have been involved with what we're calling quality of life focused operations. And I think we have completed 4 of those over the last 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. And those are, in my estimation, producing some really good results in terms of eliminating some of the, eliminating some of the pressure that these issues are applying to neighborhoods, applying to some of our commercial areas where you're working, and it's also affecting tourism. So we're going to continue to do that. We're on a cadence right now where we're doing these operations, and we're focusing on repeat offenders. We're focusing on behaviors that are eroding quality of life in our neighborhoods. Open container violations, trespassing violations. There's a nexus to some of the harm reduction with needles, and hopefully we're providing a little bit of relief to some of the folks that are being afflicted by this. But downtown continues to be an area that we focus on. Haywood Road is an area we focus on. Tunnel Road, from the tunnel all the way to South Tunnel, is an area that we continue to focus on. So we have about a half a dozen of those that we try to hit periodically and have a presence in. So, are there any questions that you might have? That's kind of an overview of what things look like in the city of Asheville and some of the things we're doing. Be glad to answer a question or two if you have.
What's the percentage of your crimes that are committed by the homeless? And how are y'all addressing the homeless in the downtown area?
Yeah, good question. So our quality of life operations really focus on those behaviors where we're seeing open container violations, we're seeing trespass violations. And out of the ones that we've already completed, when we go back and look at our data, it is overwhelming the amount of folks that are part of the unhoused community that are part of that. So we're addressing that head on. We have been very intentional about connecting with resource providers as a first step, and we have done that for months and years. And we continue to do that where appropriate, but we're very much in an enforcement phase right now, where we're past the first touch resource provision stage, and we're more into like you've been warned, you've been educated, you've been told, and now it's time that you adjust. So we're asking folks to if there's no trespassing signs, don't be present in those areas. If there's a trespass letter that businesses have filed with us, we're enforcing that. City Council just passed a panhandling provision to the current ordinance where they expanded the high traffic zones. That goes out Patton Avenue, West Asheville, and it also goes up towards Trader Joe's, up Merriman Avenue to East Chestnut. So that's an example of a few ways that we're addressing some of those pressure points.
So is there a number to call if we have an issue with the unhoused as opposed to the police department? Is there some?
There is, the Asheville Fire Department has what's called a REST team, and they go out, they're basically tip of the spear, and they will go out and make contact with the unhoused, primarily with encampments, and they'll offer resources and try to connect them with Homeward Bound or some of the resource providers. You can access them through calling the Asheville Police Department, and our dispatcher can, instead of dispatching a police officer, they can dispatch a REST team member. But I will say that it really requires the unhoused to be an equal participant in that. We cannot force them to take the resources that we're offering. And many times we find that they're not willing. So that leaves us in a situation where we're having to make repeated contacts with them. And ultimately, it can result in an enforcement action. We wish that that weren't the case, but at the end of the day, it's, you've got the resources available to you, you've been asked, and if it gets to a police officer where we kind of positioned ourselves back of the line, if it gets to that point in time where we go out and do either write a ticket or make an arrest. So,
How many of these newcomers do you think are actually from our area are being sent here? Because I step out of the office every once in a while and I talk to some of these people occasionally. And I might hear that somebody has just arrived on the Greyhound from Chicago or from someplace like that. So it looks like a lot of these people aren't from here, that we're becoming, particularly since the Greyhound bus station.
yeah,
I've seen a lot of new people, because I keep up since I'm down here all the time.
right.
We know our regulars, and I'm sure you do too, but then I see some brand new faces.
So that is happening. I can't tell you in terms of volume how many there are. I say we're familiar, as are some of the others, with what we would consider the regulars, the familiar faces. But there's also folks in the business community in the downtown area that are saying the exact same things. Like, we're seeing different faces and we're seeing an uptick. So we know that that's happening. The Greyhound, if you don't know, does drop off at 49 Cox Avenue, National Transit Center. Nothing we can do about that. It just is. But yes, that is, that's something that we're having to look at. I'm also having a conversation with our homeless outreach coordinator, Emily Ball, with the city of Asheville, in the Continuum of Care board, to see if there's not already a plan in place, how can we develop something that addresses new faces within the community via Greyhound?
Well, somehow they're getting some of those drugs that mean they look like boots, where they look paralyzed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've seen more of that in the past month or so than I did for a while. It cleaned up for a while. When Helene really did make things change, and I didn't see nearly as many that kind of thing right outside the office. But now I'm beginning to see some of that again. Those people I got to talk to, okay? I don't ask for their problem.
I guess sort of related to that, maybe you mentioned the container. Like, I feel like, thankfully, I visited Spokane, Washington a year ago. Thankfully, we're not even close to there, but you're seeing a lot of like open air drug use.
Yes.
Is that something that you guys, that falls under the general open container? Is that something you guys try and nip in the bud or address, or?
It is. It's difficult because we know this. We know that there's a lot of chemical dependency that's involved in our house community. We also know that as part of the rollout of resources, some of the harm reduction, they roll out needles and items that, in an effort, I guess, to minimize the spread of disease and whatnot. There are kits that involve needles, some of them involve smoking pipes, and we just don't feel like that is doing anything but deteriorating from the locations at which these folks are setting up. So we really are trying to, and it's a hard lift, work with the communities that are affected and see how we can displace that to another geographical location and get it out of the community. West Asheville has been hugely afflicted by this. There always remains a tremendous need for mental health services and substance and chemical abuse. So we know that when we activate the police department, we're only touching symptoms, right? But at the same time, we realized that over the last really recent period of time, there's a lot of these neighborhoods they're just done. And we're having community leaders that are coming out of the woodwork and they're saying, our community's done. Our tank's full, we can't take anymore, and we need help. So working with our elected leaders, working with some of our community leaders to try to clean up. You know, there's a real effort right now on Haywood Road to try to clean up some of the things that are going on. The continuum of care, they've got a subgroup that are actually physically going out and working in the neighborhoods and working with business owners to try to kind of remediate some of what's going on. So
how can we help you so that you're not stuck? Part of our staff has to go out and clean up the needles and all the mess. And that's part of what
I
I
think-
do.
Well, and I don't want to keep chewing into this time, I'll be brief here, but I think for us, your voice really matters. It really matters a great deal. So as much as you're able to activate with local elected leaders, that helps. As much as you're able to activate in terms of going to a city council and letting your voice be heard in a meeting and telling them what pressures you're under, what you're seeing, and that really matters. So that helps us tremendously whenever we have voices that say, hey, listen, we're not against the unhoused. We're like, I think we're all in agreement. We want positivity for those that are in need. We just want it the right way. And we want it, done in a way that where you get the integrity of neighborhoods.
Help, but not enable.
So I'm going to turn it over because I'm probably chewing up your time.
Thank you, Captain.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Pat. Well, thank you so much for having me. We really appreciate it. I think I'm seeing, you have a clicker. You really are prepared. Seeing different professional organizations get together and put forward safety presentations, and that's really heartening because we're disheartening to look at it, right? That this has to happen. That you have to take it into consideration. Just like officers with their heads in the sand, we're taking a look at what needs to happen and addressing the situation. This is not going to be anything like that you've never heard before. The impetus for this is simply to get this to the forefront of your consciousness, so that it's something that you take into consideration. Because the next expression I like to utilize is, we fall to the highest level of our training, rise to the occasion. It's rare, sometimes it happens. But usually you fall to the highest level of your training. So if you place yourself mentally in some of these situations that you might find yourself in, you've already kind of connected those neural synaptic links so that you'll be able to activate appropriately. So why safety is crucial for real estate agents. This is the big one here, the unfamiliarity, okay? Because you have a tactical disadvantage the moment that you meet with somebody, because they might know what they want to do if they, mean ill will, and you don't. They might know the layouts of a particular residence, and you don't. They know, who's going to be there, if they have accomplices to do ill will, whatever, all that kind of stuff. So the idea is to sort of flip those tables, okay? Give yourself some tactical ammunition, if you will. So you may face risk while showing homes, attending open houses, or meeting clients for the first time. Has anyone in this room heard anything like this? You have. You care to share?
Well, I mentioned it, I do commercial, but I was selling a manufacturing facility down in Gaffney, or Sheriff County, South Carolina. And hairs raised because there was kind of sitting around waiting for them. figured it out, and he actually would not let me be here by myself again, so he always came with me to make sure I was protected.
And that's awesome that you're operating to save her. And I know you did tell me, but I just want to make sure that everyone heard you because, and everyone knows that just to make sure that these things happen. I did one of these at Keller Williams and it's the same thing. You know, it's like we were, I don't know, it was like 6 people who said like I had this experience with this experience.
Yeah, and there are more here now.
So protecting yourself and your clients is top priority. All right, so just some numbers here. These are from 2023. Real estate professionals face a higher risk of violent crime than many other professions. In 2023, the National Association of Realtors reported that 2% of its members were victims of the crimes while on the job. And I have to admit, when I first, when Keller Williams reached out, I was like, hey, what you do for the realtor safety thing? And I was like, are they like, you know, it didn't even cross my mind. Yeah, I didn't take it into consideration until I started looking at some of the data. This is nationwide. So 56,000 realtors were victims of a crime in 2023. 322,000 felt fear for their safety in 2023. 406,000 didn't have safety protocols in place in 2023. So you can see sort of this causal relationship here, right? And having these conversations here is important because you may have safety protocols in place. I don't know. Maybe you're visiting them, revamping them or whatnot. But this is definitely the first step. Is just getting our heads in that space where it's like, okay, these things do happen. How can we respond to it? In 2020, there was 48 fatal incidents involving real estate professionals in the United States. Okay. So as far as some common risks, meeting clients alone in private settings, working in isolated or unfamiliar locations, working late or after hours. Something you can do to help gain an understanding of when you are at risk is kind of can be a macabre mental exercise. But then next time you're shopping or pumping gas or whatever, say pumping gas, pretend you're a bad guy. Look around and see who you can victimize. And it's unbelievable when you see what is everybody doing? Pumping the gas. That's right. They're looking down here, not up in the world. They don't know what's going on. You see it all the time. You're like, man, I could like steal this person's car and do this. It's everywhere. Next time you're at the grocery store, you can see it too. See how many purses are just kind of left in the cart while the person's doing whatever. It happens all the time. We're very unaware a lot of times. So if you want to see where you're at risk, pretend you're a bad guy. Think of it that way. Risk of stalking, harassment, or robbery. Do you have pre-meeting safety that you do?
A lot of firms have policies about confirming the identity of the person, whether it's through that 404 feature or the old school, we look at your ID or, you know, we always tell another broker at the firm that I'm going to be here, you know, so if I'm not back in a certain period of time.
Yeah. Okay, so you do these things, but we go over this stuff. All right, so as far as preparing meeting before clients, verify their information, confirm the identity of the clients before meeting. Tell someone your plans, share your meeting location schedule, and check the property. If possible, preview the property before showing it to a client. Why would that be important?
Because you can get it to work. You can case the joint and see where you
Case
can
the
get it
joint.
all your assets.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly right. Like, I've never been in this building before. And they're like, hey, you know, where's the bathroom? I was like, oh, okay. I'm wandering around everywhere. You all know. So there's a tactical advantage to having, you know, where the exits are, where the side roads are, all that kind of stuff. So check it out ahead of time. If possible, the first time, if you can meet in public, that's great. Choose a public place, coffee shop, here. Even if you wanted to meet with the person, you know, let's say their house is next to like a bank parking lot, meet up there. That's fine. Public place plus banks have the means and security. Okay, so during the meeting, safety during the property shows. What are some thoughts that you all have about this? What's some ways you can stay safe while meeting with the person? Overthinking the bad guy.
I always want to be the last one. I want to be behind them at all times.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, 100%. You don't want to, like, have your back to someone you don't know, right? 100%. So stay aware of exits is the first one listed here. Your tip is listed here, but don't worry, it's here. But stay aware of exits. Always be mindful of the nearest exits when you're inside of a property. This is just good advice, period. This is good life advice. Okay, if you're in a movie theater, like, how do I get out of here? Someone would break that right now. If you're in Target, you're like, I can't go through the front door, how do I get out of here? Right? A lot of times you don't want to pigeonhole yourself. So it's the same thing with if you're showing a property. I saw somebody walk behind here when I was sitting here waiting. I don't know what that leads to. It's like the Wizard of Oz that go behind this wall. Okay, but I'm assuming that there's active egress there. Okay. And just, bear in mind where those places are. So you can get out if you need to. Maintain control of the situation. Keep personal items like your phone on you at all times. Like I'm not doing right now. I feel like I'm in a safe space. I don't know. But yeah, make sure that you don't just leave your stuff, your keys around, such that someone could hide them from you and you're stranded there. You have no phone. You have no access to a car, right? What could happen if you're in a rural area this person gets ill? Keep a safe distance. Don't turn your back on clients, especially in private or unfamiliar settings. We all know that some people are close talkers. There's a Seinfeld episode about it. It's great, right? But and also you don't want to talk to somebody super far, but just be cognizant of that personal distance, right? I don't have to worry about for me in policing, I like to keep 2 arms lengths away from the person I'm interacting with if it's a subject that I'm dealing with. There's a reason for that. I can reach out and grab me. They're no danger to me from there. And they can be very soon, but it gives me a little bit of time, right? So we have an expression, it's time plus distance equals cover. So if I have any kind of distance between, say, you, okay, I'm like, okay, if all of a sudden you got up and you're like, I'm gonna stick that fork in my eye to make this presentation. I'm like, oh, just get up, acting aggressive, I'm gonna know ahead of time, walk out here. Give myself a little more space. So in the same way, give yourself a space. Trust your instincts. We talked about this at the beginning. This is a huge thing. I'm a field training officer for new officers, and something that I harp on all the time is this for them. And because they're nervous about everything, because everything's new, right? But these are key. These are wired into the fabric of your DNA. Pay attention to those. If something just feels awry, there's likely a reason for that. Listen to that little voice. Call somebody if you want to. Maybe it doesn't meet that threshold of running out screaming, but you're like, something's weird here. I need to, fake a phone call from my kid who says they're sick and you picked up from home, but actually I'm texting somebody else and they know where I'm at. Something like that. Using technology to stay safe. So I didn't know about 411, and I really appreciate that. I'll add this in here. I have teenage daughters, so yes, thank you. So I use this Live 360, and I find it invaluable. I love this program. Okay, but I guess there's other ones out there, but Live 360 enables you to see people who are in your network if they let you see where they're at, share the location, that sort of thing. Moonlight or Be Safe kind of operate the same way. It's an app where you click on it, and if you don't input a PIN within a certain period of time, they'll try to contact. If they don't get anything, or if the phone is silenced, then they reach out and call them. So those can operate the same, which is great. However, like everything, it has its limitations, right? So the issue with that is what? I'm in a situation and I'm like, oh, hold on, it takes me forever to find things, right? I'm not like a Gen Z, or it takes me a while. I have to look through all this stuff. and find the icon that I want. So, and so does anyone know with the iPhone, you can just call 911 really easily? If you hit the power button on here 5 times rapidly, it'll call 911. Yeah, so if you're just mashing this button, you can hit it 100 times, right? Whatever you want to do, just blah, 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 it'll call 911, okay? You don't have to say anything. If you don't say anything, that'll help the dispatcher, but if you don't, it will ping your location. And they'll say, hey, we got a 911 call, there's no answer, I'll call back. I can hear muffled voice in the background. Whenever the dispatcher relays over to the officer, gives us some information, but that's another. We talked about this using apps, find my friends or Google Maps, share your location in real time. You can do that also with, messaging or whatever, share your locations at the end of the day or, that sort of thing. Some phones have silent alarm feature that you can activate discreetly. We talked about that. That's the hitting the button at least 5 times in rapid succession. Okay, as far as personal defense, this can be something a little caveat I want to discuss real quick before we go into this, is that it can lead to a false sense of security. Okay, like we'll just take a firearm for example. Okay, so we'll say, oh, I have a firearm in my house. I feel good. I don't have to worry about security. But it's like, how often do you train with that tool? How accurate are you with that tool under pressure? Because remember, if your adrenaline goes all the way up, you lose your fine motor skills. You only have your gross motor skills. You're having to manipulate little, small levers and things like that. Little stuff on a safe, combo locks or whatever. All that is to say is that whatever element we discuss in here that you're like, I think I feel comfortable with that. Pepper spray, let's say. Like, I feel okay with that. How quickly can you get it out? How quickly can you utilize it? How quickly can you get that spray on target under pressure with adrenaline high? So yes, it is a great tool, but don't let it lead you into a false sense of security. So self-defense training can be great. You consider taking a self-defense course, better protect yourself in dangerous situations. Again, very useful. However, just because you go out and train whatever you train, don't let that give you a false sense of security. Okay. I train jiu-jitsu, and I know that when I first started training jiu-jitsu, I thought I was pretty good. Got smoked by everybody there. I was like, oh man, it's like I have a lot of room to grow. So just keep that in mind. Non-lethal weapons, we talked about this. Pepper spray or personal alarm can help deter attackers. The pepper spray, I'll say my one experience pre-police where I had pepper sprays, I was like 17 years old, I bought Ace Hardware, and I was like, just being a goofball. And the wind came and blew right back in my face. I couldn't see anything. It was terrible, and it stinks. So make sure you're kind of comfortable again with it. Personal alarms are great. She has one of these on here. Kind of depends on the environment. If you're in a really rural area, it might not be that great. But if you're in an urban setting, and you push this and allow the alarm emit and draw attention to you. As far as your rights, you have the right to defend yourself in the military.
But what about downtown Asheville?
Do you have the right? A different place.
In terms of benefits, in terms of what we can use and what we can't use. I know Chief Landon mentioned something about one of those guns that aren't really a gun, but you can shoot somebody with it. That's something that.
Oh, burnout. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that thing.
Burnout. Yeah, that shoots like a pepper ball.
Yeah.
Little thing. Yeah, I mean, you absolutely can. So downtown Asheville is not its own empire. It has full laws of North Carolina, so you're good. You can defend yourself or a third party from an imminent threat if you need to. So even if something's fixing to happen and you can articulate that, you can utilize force to don't go above, it has to be proportional. Okay, post meeting safety, report suspicious behavior. I was speaking with some of you earlier, I heard about this, that you encountered something unusual, you reported it to somebody else, then we kind of went together to this residence.
Can I ask how you kind of, I showed a home, it's probably been a month ago, and the people that wanted to see the home, they came in after I was, and I probably should not have been there by myself at all. It looked like there were squatters. It was definitely a full rehab, but we suspected there might have even been drug use. And I told the listing agent, who apparently was out of Charlotte or whatever, and they just seemed to, I said, you might want to have this followed up on. I don't even think that they batted an eye. But my thought was, is I'm not even sure if I called, I think that was Madison County, would they have had any kind of an obligation to follow up, to find out if there was something bad going on there?
So, if you encounter some, let's say you're selling a house in West Asheville, right? You go over there and you see it's like you suspect someone's been squatting there, you see burnt foil and all that kind of stuff there. You can absolutely call the non-emergency number in Asheville. Madison County, I can't speak to that. But I know in the city of Asheville, you could call and say, hey, this is what I've seen, or whatever, to dispatch an officer that I think who are squatting there. Another way you can do it is you can report it online on our police citizen tool that gets followed up on. It's also just a way to document things. Obviously, us, it wouldn't be like an exigent threshold, right? So they're not gonna have something come out there immediately unless you were there. If you were there and you were about to show this house, and you're like, I think there's somebody in there, then you could absolutely give us a call and get ahead of that. That's no big deal. In fact, I'd much rather that happen. So we could go out there, with you if you suspect that, and ameliorate that situation right then and there instead of doing it on the back. Check in after meetings and share any concerns or unusual experiences. You may pick up on something that somebody else did not. Review your security measures, update locks, security systems, and surveillance on properties. My house is getting worked on in West Asheville, and I know people are meandering around there, okay, because it's West Asheville off of State Street, and and there's, I have cameras, and the guys working on it has all those little lock boxes and stuff. But I saw someone went up there and tried to tamper with it and try to get in, so this happens. Okay, so make sure you check on your stuff and update it. That's okay. So that's the number right there, the 252-1110 number. I suggest you program that in your phone. Use it if you need to call the police department and need to report something that's not exigent. So if it's something in progress that requires immediate police action, call 911. Okay.
That's your non-emergency number, correct?
That's the non-emergency number. Yeah.
That's what.
If you forget and you're like, oh, there's some number in here, I can't remember, just call 911 and they'll route you to the appropriate thing. Our non-emergency is now under Buncombe County, and they're using an AI bot called Violet to answer the phone. You kind of hit or miss from what I've heard. So if you're having issues with Violet, just call 911 and talk to a human being. We're still better. Yeah, and you have these programs that you're doing right now. So you've taken the critical step of starting this conversation, at least bringing it to your awareness. Okay, this happens in the United States. It's happened in Asheville. It can and unfortunately will happen again somewhere. Okay, so anything you can take to inoculate yourself against the violence of another is a step in the positive direction. So I laud your efforts in that regard. Is there questions that I could answer in regards to anything?
I would just say for situational awareness, if you're showing a home or anything, that you also need to look at the neighbors, because the house could be being sold because of the neighbors.
Yeah.
And you can see some creepy things happening next door as to why people want to get rid of that house.
Yeah.
So don't just think about that house, think about the houses right there around it.
Sure, and I guess, we talked about this before, but you could go into, the LexisNexis, crime analytics, and it's for the public. You go on, you can see where these crimes are occurring, and if, it's happening, there's 20 calls for service right here, and you're selling a place right here.
Well, that place, it's
Yeah.
like, shoot, we got to, police have been here 20 times.
Right, yes.
Well,
So you'll know, and you'll also have a better understanding as far as what you're dealing with, because the police may go out to the area, but maybe for, say, a domestic situation or a juvenile problem, not necessarily anything inherently violent. Maybe not even inherently violent. Okay, so.
Appreciate you.